So I'm going to continue to work on the explorer. It's kind of hard to me for it's kind of hard for me to say explorer because they are. But I'm probably gonna try to refactor. I'm gonna follow these steps that I have here. I'm not sure how long it's gonna take, but I spent a bunch of time removing a bunch of stuff that I think I'm not gonna need. And I realized that the things related to files on the original file system doc, they are because they had two different containers inside of the same thing. And one of the containers was used to show what's displayed after the search or after a filter. And the main one, which is the one that I have there still, is the trio one. So the other one was just for that. So I removed all functionality related to this. And also removed the search and the other stuff. So I try to remove as many things as possible to simplify, because if I do, I'm probably going to implement something like search, but it's going to be probably something more similar to the way that it is here, which I think is better. So like create another icon on the sidebar there, and then create another component to handle the search. And I'm going to try to reuse the same classes, obviously. So I was thinking about this as well, like how to structure the original class so that I can use on the with search as well. So, but I think that's probably better to think about this later. So it's probably better to try to finish things first on the optimizations that I'm trying to implement here, and then later think about this. So the last step, I think I'm gonna also delete this visible queue probably because I'm probably not gonna need it. And the next step was to, as I was removing a bunch of stuff, I was also trying to remove the file system, because the way that I had before is that they were doing before is connecting the model, which is the editor file system class, directly with the file system doc. And they were doing this through a class. So I had to replace some parts because they hard coded the root folder. And I put the file system, I created a pointer to the file system on the file system doc, pointer to the editor file system on the file system doc that I called file system. And now I want obviously to remove all of that because I'm doing everything from the file system presenter. So file system presenter is the thing that's going to connect the view, which now is a FS view, with the model, which is FS model. It's basically this flow chart here that I draw some time ago. I'm just gonna wait to see if it is streaming. So as I was trying to remove this stuff, I realized that because the file system doc uses a bunch of dialog classes, which are the things that show up when you want to rename, for example, a file, or when you want to move a file. So these classes, they used, I just figured out an easy way to make them work the first time. They use the file system pointer, so I have to see if I can change basically these parts here. Yeah, I just created a function on them that they didn't have before to pass the pointer. But obviously, since I want to remove this, I have to see how can I make this happen. Because the problem is, I think on one of them, I can't really like just send a signal from this to. So this is kind of the issue. So I'm just gonna spend some time trying to figure out how to. They also use this file system path here. Not really sure this is necessary or not, or what I'm gonna do with this. So hopefully it doesn't take a lot of time to do this, but it might. Because obviously the easiest thing to do would be to just remove everything and just put everything on signals. Then based on the signals on the model, I create a function that's trend safe. I put the mutex macro there on top of the function. Then I call the function, and then I check everything. Right after this, I wasn't sure, I'm still not 100% sure which one is the best. But according to ChatGPT, it's probably better to do the uncollapse, and the reason why is because it's like a more direct effect on the user experience. But it's not that it's gonna matter that much because I'm gonna do both of them now. So The thing is that everything's gonna depend on the least recently used cache. So, but I think I'm gonna just do the uncollapse. Try to do the uncollapse first. The scroll is very annoying. And the uncollapse is very annoying as well. The uncollapse is less annoying than the scroll. The scroll, I think I'm not gonna do anything. Probably, I'm just gonna leave it like this. And maybe in the future, if I need it, I do something. Because the thing is, since I'm doing browse first search now to load everything, you should like load. Like there isn't an easy way to check to see how many items that there are still left if it doesn't load everything and the user scrolls. But obviously, there should be a way to do this. So like you calculate the viewports, then you send a signal to the model, and I figure out some function to see if there's a fast way to get all the files that the model that the level should have, or they should be visible in different states, and then you just get like the difference between them, which is like the ones that were not loaded, and then you make a condition to show a loader while you don't have those files yet. It's just obviously easier to just not do anything because I'm doing browse first search, so it's gonna load the browse first, which is the currently visible stuff. Oh, I forgot. I'm gonna put before I do this, I have to create a function that from the configuration is going to put them on a hash, I think. So translate to a vector. The configuration saves the uncollapsed paths on a vector. So I have to put them on a hash, I think, on the model. Then as the model is traversing through the directory for the first time, it checks to see if the path is on the hash, and if it is, then it sets the uncollapsed true. Oh, the other thing, I'm gonna show there what I had to do, because you can't really run the functions on the tree, or any functions related to the GUI, you can't run from a side thread. So I didn't know that, but I think that's the case, because I was getting an error, and that's ChatGPT said that it's because of the main thread, and based on the error there, I also think that's probably the issue is that functions on the GUI have to be run from the functions that directly change the GUI have to be run from the main thread. Not really sure why they did it like this, but probably makes sense. So because of that, I couldn't run the function to update the tree directly on the thread after this scan. So I had to find a kind of like a hacky way to do it. So I'm going to show here. So now I'm using the load data function instead of the scan new directory. Not sure if I'm probably gonna remove the other ones, but I'm kind of hesitant because I'm not sure if I'm gonna need later. So maybe once I finish everything, then I remove. But I was looking into this function because this one is the one that is used there on the view to get the full path. So I'm not really sure if I need this one as well. It's gonna return the. Yeah, I think I have to see all the. Yeah, this is what I was gonna do. I was gonna see all the parts that this function is used, and try to understand why they are used. So I have to study the flow of what happens on the dialogues there. And once I understand, it's gonna be easier to think about what is the best way to simplify or to remove the file system from the dialogues. But on this one, so it's gonna run this function eventually from a thread. So first it runs scan, then scan runs scan file system, and then file system used to run scan new directory, but now I'm putting this function. In this function, I put this stuff here, and since last time I realized that there was an infinite loop because of the way that I was popping from the queue. So I was pushing into the back of the queue, but then popping from the back as well. So it was infinite loop. So now I'm just popping from the front. And this is, in the beginning, is going to be the root path, and then this while loop here is going to loop through the level, the current level, and then it's going to put all the subfolders onto the queue. So that way it goes deeper. So it's basically browse first search, and it changes based on the DA changed there. So this function is the one that, based on whatever you put on the queue, is going to change the access to that path. which this is also something, on the other one, I think they were just putting the f, which is the current path here, current name of the path. But I think that it wasn't working when I was trying to do like this, so I had to put the full path, which is this cd here, which is the current directory path, concatenated with the current name of the folder. So it's like the full path of the folder. I'm passing to the queue, and then I create this meta, current meta struct, which has the information of all the information that is needed to add the node to the tree there. So there's something that I wasn't really sure about the order, but I think it's working now, and the ChatGPT, I'm gonna show there on the after I go through the flow. But it basically is going to look for the level first. So whenever it hits the batch, which currently is at 100, so at 100 items, it's going to emit a signal. So either it's going to emit here or it's going to emit at the end of the function. And basically, obviously, it's going to load the level first. So I think here is the place where I'm going to put uncollapse. Yeah. So here I have to check on the hash map of the uncollapsed paths if there was a configuration before, just see if the current directory is uncollapsed, and then set, because when you set, it's going to be based on the view, on the tree item functionality. So after this signal here is gonna call this function. It's basically this one from the file system presenter, which is the class that connects the model with the view. And this is the part that I couldn't update the view on this function here, because this would be running after the signal, which is running from another thread, which is the thread that is running the scan function. So what I did here was just I called this function from the model. Just this function uses the same queue and uses the macro here to implement a mutex. Mutex is kind of like a semaphore, which stops the data races. So two different threads to access the same thing. The same data, but in this situation, I'm not really sure. There are some nuances over like how the threads work there and the lock, how this macro works with the mutex, because it doesn't use the same threads that the scan file uses. So I'm not 100% sure if this works, but it is working right now, I think, because I'm running everything from the same thread. So I'm going to see this, I think, when I put the cache, but I'm pretty sure that it works. Not 100% sure, but almost 100% sure. So I put everything on a vector to pass there. And this is the stuff that I had to implement as well. So they use, on the list, they have this, so they have both from the from the list and from the vector. They provide this sort custom function, which is a templated function in C++, and then based on the struct you pass here is going to allow you to implement whatever logic you want to compare the items inside of the vector or the list to sort them. So the way that they were doing before is just using this function on the list and then using a standard comparator that they have there. And I just asked ChatGPT to come up with this one, and it also decided to use a vector, use the sort and custom on the vector instead of a list, because the vector is a contiguous memory space, so it's better for cache locality, which I think it makes sense. So it should be faster to do it on the vector. So basically, I'm looping over the visible queue, which is the queue that's being updated through the load data. So the load data sends the signal, it updates the visible queue for each item by pushing the meta data for the nodes or the item, then emits the signal when it hits the batch. Then the file system presenter is going to call this function from the model, which is going to take the items from the queue and put them on the vector, which is the items that are going to be loaded first for each batch. Then a sort basically in the same way that it was doing before, but it has to be this one because now I have two of these custom structs instead of two strings on the comparator. And it's basically just implemented. ChatGPT recommended a different function, but I think this one is the one that they were using before. And the only difference is that this one checks to see if there's a directory, which is a value that it puts on the struct. And then it compares the strings, compares the name of both of them. So I think that I'm pretty sure that it's gonna sort based on alphabetical order and like in numerical order. It's basically the same order that the file system does. Yeah, so after I do this, so I return the vector here with the batch items. And then here I push to this other vector. So there's going to be a vector of vectors that is batches because you can't update right away. And then I just set the flag. And then on the notification process of the node, I loop over them and then I call this view update tree from the view to send the batch to the view. And then I use the flags to stop. But the downside of this is that I couldn't, so like if you're creating a function in C++ and you want the notification process to run, you have to call this set process with true as an argument to make the node call the notification process. To call the notification function on the notification process part of the cycle. Otherwise, it doesn't run. And then obviously I try to set the process to true here and then set to false here so that stops running after it updates the batches. But it doesn't work because it complains that it can't run the function from the other threads on this part here. But I think this way is probably good enough. So, but I'm gonna try to think about, like, see if there is another way to do this. Then I pass the configuration from the view to this thing here and remove a bunch of stuff. But then this function on the view is going to take the batch and I'm saving. This is the part that I'm not 100% sure because even though it works now, it's kind of like it's not the best because you can have a situation where like a file that the parent is a subfolder of another folder gets processed on the batch before the parent folder. And right now I'm using the data from the linked list, like the direct connection between the current node and the parent. That's the only thing that I'm using to connect to update the tree gradually. So the downside of this is that I need to make sure that the order in which the nodes are being put on the batch makes sense, so that the highest folders get processed first. But then ChatGPT said that based on the sorting there, it should be fine, which I also think I agree because obviously you're going to put the folders first. Actually, it did a recommendation to change the sorting, but I think like just because of the nature of the breadth first search and the comparator that I already have there is going to work, but it's not. I'm not sure if it could be improved. So I might think about that, but it is working now. I tested with different directories. So here I check to see if there is a root node, which is going to be obviously the root, and then I create the item, and then I put this on the cache. And then on the other ones, for the ones that are the first ones to be added, it's probably going to hit this one, which is going to add the item directly to the root. And then I'm caching the nodes here. There's another thing that I was having a problem that I was caching here inside, but then some of the nodes are missing. But basically, every time that I add a node, I cache, which means that the next one's gonna have the parent path is gonna be on the cache, and it's basically a cache of the path to the tree item. And then here's basically almost the same as the other one. So like I extract the metadata from the thing. And I didn't do this yet, but I have to, because this was another issue that I was getting with the collapsed. I want to test now, so. And the rest is just the data that I had before, I think. Just basically the same thing. You're just going to set the state of the tree item. But they were separating, I think, on files and folders, and I'm just doing like everything on the same spots. I'm just differentiating based on the data on the struct that I'm passing there. So the tree and the tree item are the stuff that matters for the actual file system. Well, there was something that I wasn't sure. I'm gonna have to see. I think I'm gonna have to go back to the original one to see if I erase something, because I think on mine is not highlighting the path from the parent folder to the current file selected. and on the original one it does highlight. So I'm gonna see how they do that, so we'll have to update. But this one seems to be working, so it updates node by node, updates the tree node by node based on the batches. We choose the queue. So now what I have to do is check the dialogues and then connect a signal probably on the tree class to the uncollapse, because the uncollapse logic I think is done on the tree class. And I'm not really sure if there is a signal that they emit. I think probably not. Because the way that the functionality changes is based on the a variable inside of the tree item, I think. So when you set collapse, we call this function here, changes the member variable of the tree item. And then based on the member variable of the tree item, probably on the draw cycle, is going to change whether or not it draws the children of the node. But I'm not really sure if they emit a signal based on that. So if they don't, I'm going to have to put there. And then I'm going to connect a callback function from the tree, from this class here to the uncollapse, or actually the set collapse function. So basically I need to figure out like what happens right after you uncollapse a folder, and then I need to put a callback function in this class. And then this is the part that I was seeing that I think initially I'm just gonna, so the first thing I'm gonna do is just send a signal to the file system presenter, and then the file system presenter is gonna check to see if the node has children. Or at first I check to see if that tree item that was uncollapsed on the view has children. If it does have children, then I don't do anything, just return the function, because then obviously it has the data already. But if it doesn't, then it's a situation where you're still loading the directory, but the user interacts with the another folder. So in that situation, you have to send a signal to the file system presenter. File system presenter checks to see if the data exists on the cache. If it doesn't, then it uses the access to, it's gonna call the function from the model. So the model is gonna do that. The model checks to see if there's the data on the cache. If it doesn't, it uses the access to get, at least, I'm not really sure if probably I'm gonna do up until a certain limit. And that's the part that I'm not 100% sure I'm gonna see with the threads. Because this is probably gonna be running at the same time the other one is running, and then like it's gonna get the data, and then after it gets the data, it's gonna put them on the cache as well. So I have to put based on the limits of depth or limit of files of how much I want to load. I think I need to load at least one level. So maybe I'll do breadth first search again. And then I could like separate the functions as well. I could create another function and then call that function from both. I'm gonna think about what should do. First, I need to get rid of the more annoying parts with the dialogues. So I think I'm gonna see the dear dialog first, because I think the other one uses dear dialog. Yeah. So I put them on the same thing. I'm gonna search for anything related to file system. I'm gonna have to see. Which might take a very long time, because you have to understand how everything works. The problem with these ones is that, like, I'm not really sure if it's worth it to do this now or not, because I think that this is gonna depend on the functionality of the rest of the scene and how it's gonna work. So I think initially I'm trying to build like the basic components of an IDE. So this is gonna be connected with the other classes. I think I have to figure out how to decouple, but it's very hard. So maybe follow the flow of the flow of execution. Oh, so now it is working correctly. You see there, here. It didn't trigger or anything. Yeah, one of the things that happened that I'm not 100% sure if is a good thing or not is that before it was showing a slider in the bottom here, and I think it was because of the other classes that I removed, like the other components that were here. But I'm not really sure if that's a good or a bad thing because I think it might be kind of nice to be able to slide. But VS Code doesn't have, I think, either. Like this stuff shows slides, and don't remember if I ever used this because obviously you can expand here. So I think it doesn't matter that much. So this is the issue is that it doesn't show the lines here. So I have to see. It's probably something that yeah here you can see that it shows the lines and the lines are very nice because it does help you to see. It's weird that it doesn't it only shows in a couple of them, but it is a very nice thing to have, I think. I think it might be better to. So after I make this stuff, I'm probably gonna try to implement something similar to React Suspense, and that's the question that I was asking on the Discord there, to see if anyone has implemented this. But I think about you're just gonna try to use ChatGPT and then create a class on C++ that implements. And ChatGPT gave me some code there, so I'm gonna test to see how it works. But and I know I've seen on the editor code that they have as well, but I think that the one that they implements not. It's just but maybe the one that they implement is good enough, and I can just change the icon or something. But it would be very nice if I could implement all of this, because they look very good. So when you click the unclaps and it doesn't have the data, it shows. You replace the arrow that it shows there with the with that thing. So the way that I think this works is when you. And now I'm not like I know that when you select an option there is going to it's probably gonna be based on the pointer. So like when you select an option, it's gonna open a pop-up, and it's basically gonna be this class here. It's gonna determine the what shows up on the pop-up. Then that class, when you hit enter, is gonna send a signal. I think it's probably gonna yeah. So it's gonna be based on this, I think. So this is the function that runs after you select an option. So maybe this one I can change so that it's yeah. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. And before I change this, I have to change the. I'm gonna create another variable that replaces this get root directory. This one was getting from the model before, so I'm just gonna put get or I put root directory. It's probably maybe shouldn't be public. So I'm gonna replace this with this. I'm gonna create another function on the file system presenter to wrap the model in this one. So I'll call everything. The file system presenter also has a get a root directory. So I'm gonna update all of them on one function. And then every time, I think setters and getters should probably put here every time. So subscribe share plus db. So I think I can remove the other one. And then I change this one later. I'll remove this. So now I'm just gonna look for system. And now I think I need to remove. Actually, I need to change this one first. I need to set root directory. I'll put 0. I think the current path on the view doesn't matter that much. I think probably it was used for showing what's highlighted there, but I think it might be was used for some other function. So I'm not really sure, but I think after I refactor the other stuff, I'm gonna see if the current path matters or not. Actually, so now I think I also have to implement this function here. So maybe I do this before. So this is getting the unclass paths from the configuration, and it saves here from gets from the view and saves. Don't remember if I did something. I think I created a variable, but I don't remember if I created a function. Yeah, I just created a variable like this. So I'm gonna change this to hash map. I set unclass paths. So I'm gonna remove this sure. Or maybe I just do. Hmm. I can do the algorithm on the. I think I'm gonna do it here, so I'm just gonna add another function, and I'm going to change the type. So I'm gonna change this to a hash map. So I think it's gonna be uh, string to a boolean. So the path to whether or not is cached is uncollapsed. So I'm gonna create another function. Now show this. That updates the paths. This one is gonna receive a vector. Like this one receives the one from the cache and converts them into. It's gonna return a hash. It doesn't need to return, but I think it doesn't need to return. I don't think I'm gonna check. I'm just gonna put. Hmm. I, I was thinking about like creating a setting, but it doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to obviously just do this, like loop over the vector and add all the paths to true. And now that I think about it, maybe so. Well, the question is whether or not it's worth it to ask this search, but so I'm thinking either create a hash set or keep the hash map. Because obviously all the values are gonna be on the all the values that are inserted. It means that it's true because it is on columns. So I'm gonna ask GPT which one it thinks is better. Just see what it says. But I don't think it matters that much. It's probably the same. So like, because I think that the hash set's gonna be O1 should look as well. Yeah, so saying hash stats. As memory compared to. Yeah, that's true. Because hash map needs an additional value. So maybe it's probably better to use hash stats instead. I have to see how it recommends to put the thing. And then here on the other one, I look up here. Makes more sense to check inside of the thing. This could be a problem, which is I'm not 100% sure if the way that it saves the path on the view is gonna be the same as the one that I'm getting here, but I think it's probably gonna be. It is gonna be the same because it's gonna be based on the metadata. So the way that you update the metadata, like the way that is updating, is based on the stuff that I have here. So it's gonna be the same thing. So I think that's probably all I have to do. Then here, sample ops. Uh, this one, I think it doesn't matter, so I'm not gonna put here because the roots is already on class where they found, but I think it doesn't matter that much as well. So I'm gonna leave it here. So I'm gonna compile and see. Oh, I almost forgot to change. Has stats. No. I forgot to change on the functions. It's because of the you can't subscribe. So I'm gonna remove the getter and setter from the like this error. Usually when it shows this get type info here, this if I remember correctly is a struct that they use somewhere along the variant class. Like it's a struct that it serves as a helper for the variant class, which is used on the method bind. So the variance is usually the class that is going to be used to translate the information between classes and also to serialize the information. So usually when I see an error like this, it's probably an issue with the class DB thing here. And I think that the problem is that the variant doesn't support the hash set. I'm not sure why they both the hash set and the hash map, but I suspect that the reason why they didn't put those class on the variants is because it's a lot more complicated to make them work with serialization and also to translate the types and add the functionality in general. So I think that's probably the reason why they didn't put these classes on the variant. Which kind of sucks because then like it limits you, but they have a variation of that which is the dictionary class. The dictionary works kind of like a hash map, but in a different way I think on the under the hood, but like from the API standpoint, from the usage standpoint, basically the same. So in most cases I think you can use that, but I think for this situation, like it probably is better to either just remove the functions from the class DB because they're gonna be I'm gonna be using all these functions from the file system presenter. Like the file system presenter is the main interface on the engine. So as long as it encapsulates everything inside of the file system, it doesn't matter because the engine and the editor doesn't have to be should translate the information. They because they're gonna use the file system presenter as the entry points. So either remove them from here, or if I can't do that, then I'm gonna have to think about like a different way to just put the information in a different format and then I do the translation inside of the class. I think that it's better to have the not put the setters and getters for the thing either way because it makes a lot more sense to store everything as a hash set, I think. So it doesn't matter. So hopefully it works though. I was thinking maybe for the loader I could reuse the functionality that they had for the scanning. They use a progress bar, so I could have the same functionality and just replace for the loader. But I'm not really sure because it is kind of annoying. It is related to the editor, so probably not gonna do that. I think it might be easier to just to. I think it's probably better actually as well to spend time creating one class that works well, and that based on the data is going to select what kind of loader you have. So ideally, I spend one time creating like you can spend a bunch of time creating just one class that I can implement several different loaders and styles, and then make based on the data. Then I can reuse the same class everywhere basically. Just change the kind of data, the kind of loader that I'm using based on the data. I'm not sure how hard it's gonna be to try to implement this, like, because from the tutorials I've seen there, I think that people recommend to use some animation classes and then use like several different pictures. So I was thinking about is that I might have to go into the source code of this stuff here, then figure out how they do it from React, then try to extract the resources that they use if they use any, and then put those resources on Godot and then try to translate to C++. So if I have to do all of that, it might take a very long time. But obviously I'm gonna try to use ChatGPT first because it's a lot faster, makes a lot more sense. So I was gonna check to see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna open, then change the state, and then close and open again to see if it's gonna remember the collapse. And if it does, I'm gonna try to solve the dialog stuff. I think for now I have to focus on getting like the minimum amount of change just to make it work. Because like it kind of sucks because it is one of those things that I'm not even sure if I'm gonna use this later. So like, I just have to change this now to make it work. But I'm not pretty sure if I'm gonna have to change everything anyway later because this is like related to the actual functionality of what's gonna happen, which depends on how I'm gonna use the file explorer, like with the context of the whole thing. So I think that probably maybe this functionality is not gonna change because it's just basic stuff. But I might have to. Like, I was thinking about maybe I should remove this dialogue in the first place. But I think that probably is useful. I think in some situations it might be useful. I'm not really sure. I think on VS Code they don't have anything when you delete, which would be a lot easier as well. So maybe the best way to do it is just to go based on the functionality here. So like try to figure out the flow of information here. I think it's probably gonna be based on the actual class. But it might be in the way that yeah, because it's gonna emit a signal. So I think in this case it's gonna be the show function there. That's gonna be the one. Is the first one that gets triggered, which probably opens up the dialog, and then after that, at some point, instead of the remove dialog, is gonna emit a signal, which is gonna call these functions. So this one. So apparently it doesn't do anything here. This current path, like I said, probably gonna delete. So maybe I'll delete the entire function as well. Obviously, I'm trying to delete as many things as possible, try to simplify as much as possible. But this one I commented out because I'm probably gonna need to do this. This is another part that I have to see after I implement the events, which is the scan for changes. So the way that they were doing the changes before is based on a modified timer, I think. And then this force update changes the modified timer to 0. So I think I'm gonna change this. I'm just gonna emit a signal for the model, or emit a signal for the presenter. That's gonna call back. It's gonna call a function on the model that is gonna call this scan changes function. I think it's probably better. I'm gonna open some of them. I'm gonna test with this first, and then I'm gonna close the thing. The problem is it might depend on the way that I'm saving her. So I might have to go over it with the debugger. I think I'm gonna look into the file first. It's probably not working, but I'm saving this file here. So this is the user path. When you use the special user path on Godot, it's gonna be based on the name of the project you have. So this is a like fake project that I'm using just to develop this stuff on C++. So the way that I'm thinking about it is like developing the scenes separately on C++, because you can reuse the scenes obviously. So like I think it's becoming, it is already a lot more clear how everything works on my mind. But basically, the components that make up the scene are usually going to be classes. I think always they are classes. And the bridge between them is the signals. And the connection between the nodes that creates the hierarchy of the tree. So a scene is basically a composition that has side effects, which are the signals. And in some situations, it might make sense to have additional data that like you change the behavior based on the function outside, but I think probably should avoid most of the time. I think the functionality is going to be encapsulated on the classes, and the main thing outside is going to be the signals, which are the main side effects you have, and then the connection between nodes, which is just add child. So like the scene is a composition between these islands, which are the classes, and then obviously you can reuse the scene. And then you can compose applications based on that. So I'm thinking about like focusing on creating a bunch of scenes on C++, and then after I have like a database of resources, then I create projects separately, because I can reuse the same scenes and compose them on different ways. The connection of them, this is another part that I'm gonna have to think about once it gets to the point. But it's just gonna be a function on one of the classes, which is gonna ask to change the root nodes. And I think on that part, it's gonna interfere. It's gonna like connect with the engine. But it's based on the functionality of the islands that are parts of the scene that are gonna determine the transition between the functions, which is basically a finite state machine. So just like classes for the islands that make up the parts of the scene, then function composition for creating the tree structure, which is the scene, and then a finite state machine to connect different things, which is the application. And then obviously have an infinite variance, which is the different parts, like different ways to connect different things. So it's not saving anything. I think it's because of the collapse and non-collapse. Yeah. So the difference is that before, so I deleted the update tree and the create tree functions as well, because I think I'm not gonna need them. I'm just gonna use the, if I need another function, then I just create another function. But I think the one that I have there is probably already enough. So it just updates the tree one time, and then react to events, which is the stuff that I'm doing now. But yeah, so this is the part is gonna get into. I have to see. So first, I'm gonna focus on the dialogues now because I have to fix the dialogues, and then I have to see what happens after the uncollapse event, and what's happening before. I think before it was calling a function that it would call update tree, and then update tree would get the uncollapsed paths, would call get uncollapsed paths. Get uncollapsed paths is the function that updates the uncollapsed paths and gets the state from the tree item of whether or not it's collapsed, and then puts down the vector. So I'm gonna fix this stuff first. Remove the file. Try to remove the file system. Then I'll go back to the uncollapsed. So I'll be right back. So what I was gonna do, I just thought about this, is to change. I created another folder just to test this stuff. I use a Python script that I got from ChatGPT to test. I create a folder that has a bunch of fake directories to test. So I'm gonna get this thing here, this path. I'm gonna put it on the cache place sort of thing. So I'm gonna go over with the debugger. I think it's probably better. So maybe I should show the launch.json again. I'm gonna look for all the places that this is. The question is which one should do first. I need to do the file operation or like file options or whatever the name of the function is called. I need to put breakpoints there. I think it's file option. I think it's probably related. And based on some of the stuff that I removed is crashing based on this. But this is the stuff that I said that I'm gonna have to see later because it depends on what I'm gonna do. Also, the current path is used here. So maybe it does matter. Well, I wonder if I can get from the 3 items that. This kind of stuff is just more annoying than anything. Like I don't care about this too much now. Like I just wanna get to the next thing. There's so many things to do. So it's just kind of annoying. It's just something that I have to get over with fast, so I can move on to the next stuff. Luckily, it's just the two there that depend on the file system. So this is the function that gets called with the options. After select the option on the menu, it's gonna call this based on the thing there. So now I'm just gonna go over I'm gonna put a breakpoint on all of them that are involved on this stuff. I think here instead what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna connect the signal on the file system presenter, and then I'm going to call a scan on the model. So I can update the cache. And the question I have to see is on the front. And I think that this is the problem. So I'm gonna change the view. The way that I think was being done before is that they were probably calling a function. If they were not calling a function on the model, they were calling update tree on the fronts. But I think they were calling a function on the model. They rebuilt the entire file system and then call the update tree function eventually, which also would rebuild the whole tree. And then by doing that, you would have the updated version. But then now I have to figure out a way to. So probably what I'm gonna do is just like search for the name on the cache on the front end, then remove the node from the tree. I think you have to remove all the children as well. So just delete the nodes. But obviously I can just use ChatGPT to see this, or figure out the easiest way to do it. So remove from the cache, remove from the thing, from the front end, and then send the function, on the presenter, call a function from the model that removes the file from the cache as well. Or the call scan changes. But the problem with scan changes that I'm not 100% sure how to deal with is that on very large directories, it doesn't make sense to run scan change because it's going to take a massive amount of time. So I'm not really sure how they usually do this. I assume that there must be something on there must be a way to connect directly with the operating system, I think, to check to see if so the scan changes should be directly connect on the model should be directly connected with the operating system. So every time that someone does something like from outside, it immediately knows which file exactly it is. And then I can update that place instead of having to traverse the whole thing. I think that makes a lot more sense. I think it has to be implemented has to be implemented like this at some point in the chain, because that makes a lot more sense. So like, I think on the operating system level, it's gonna implement like this probably. So it looks for the file on the disk. Like when you interact, the API of the operating system is gonna look for the file on the disk, and then based on the position, the way that it traverses the memory addresses and the virtual memory and stuff like that, to get to the actual disk, it's going to remove that place, and then it's going to return some information from that place, I think, specifically. And then it's probably going to update the tree like that, so it doesn't update the whole thing, I think. Or it just updates the minimum amounts of minimum necessary amount, but not the whole thing. And if it is gonna have to delete a bunch of data, then it shows that GUI there, which is just the operating system API of the garbage thing on the thing. The loader is just displaying the information on the disk that is being removed. So it probably gets like the final spots and the final address and the beginning address of the whole directory. And by that, it knows the amount, roughly the amount of data it's gonna delete, and then it shows the progress based on that. I'm gonna put breakpoint on both of this. And the question is whether or not to do this now. So this is the thing I have to say. Because before, after I delete everything, I didn't see. It's obviously gonna fail, I think. But I have to think about whether or not to try to implement this now or do the rest of the stuff. Then come back to this later. I think it makes more sense to implement the cache first. I have to think about. So maybe I'll go to the original one and then I see how they were doing. If it was, I can put breakpoints on the original one as well. So I already have here. And it's basically the same. It just changes this. This one is the one that I commented out, but I think it's probably the same as well. So the question is like how maybe it's on the folder. Hmm. Maybe it wasn't. Yeah, maybe it's still working though. Because if it doesn't update the tree here, I think I just have to look into the places on this class first and then test to see what happens. So that was pretty much all the places for that one, I think. So does it need? And maybe these ones are not very good to spend time looking at it. Actually, I have to get the signals. if there are any from the. Yeah, this it doesn't matter that much. I think this one's for what I'm trying to figure out now, because it's about changing the actual classes. So I think it's more for the remove dialog is gonna be the show function, the one that matters, because it's the one that's gonna trigger the rest of the functions, I think. Uh, this one uses the file system. So I guess the only thing I have to change is to instead of doing like just change the flow. So like pass the thing as an argument and then change based on that. But I think that the problem is that on one of them, one of these functions, I think it needs the model because it uses the model to traverse the whole thing through the whole thing. So this is the problem. But I think like in this situation, should probably implement on the model and then emit a signal from the model to the presenter. And the presenter updates the tree. So I think I need to implement a function on the view that is like a granular update. Set of batches is like I should think about what name should I put. It's gonna be move pressed. I obviously can go based on this, I think. I can go from here and put the breakpoints on this one actually. I think it makes more sense. How does it have access to that tree? Hmm. Oh, I think this is probably gonna show. This shows another tree, so on the dialog shows another tree. And then I guess whatever was selected to send as okay. I think I can understand. So which one of these uses the? Yeah, this one uses the right tree. Closer. Hmm. I think I understand what is going on. They probably build the dialog based on the tree state, and then they use the thing. Hmm. So on the file system changed, it calls this file system change is the signal that they were emitting after the whole thing loaded. Hmm. My question is whether or not I need this stuff. This is the thing that the reason why I said it's kind of annoying. Maybe I just comment this stuff out and then I just delete the file system because I don't want to think about this stuff now. And I think that there might be ways to simplify because, like I said, the thing depends like because for implementing the functionality that is going to connect the file system or the file explorer with the like the files that are going to show up like here on the thing, I'm gonna have to create like bridges. Like it's probably gonna be, like I said, through signals. I think it's definitely gonna be through signals. So I'm gonna have to think about like when you double click the file, for example, it's probably gonna have to emit a signal with the file path to that is gonna be connected through the presenter that is gonna emit a signal to another class that is going to be the class that has the file information or has the ID, is responsible for the file state that shows up, which is probably gonna have multiple tabs. So it's gonna have to receive the path, then have some operational system function to put the information on the file on the thing. So like I'm gonna have to think about these options anyway when I get to that point. And there's a lot more stuff that I'm gonna have to think about. So I think it doesn't make sense to focus on this stuff now. It's not relevant to if I have to change later anyway. It doesn't make any sense, I think. So maybe instead of changing the dialog, I just comment out the thing on the tree, and then I just comment out the parts. And I rethink the options, because obviously the main priority is to remove as many things as possible as well. To remove it as much as possible, and then just add the stuff that I think is going to be absolutely necessary to what I'm trying to do. So I think I'm going to. But the thing is that it would be nice to like get this done now. The main purpose of this stuff, I think that these dialogues, like they're connecting the. There's another class that's gonna connect through with the model. So I think I'm going to spend some time like just going over the flow. I think, or trying to go over the flow if I can find. I think this one's gonna be based on the move, which is the same function there. So I'm gonna go over with the debugger and see. I spend some time trying to clarify what happens after you click the options to see what functions get called. Maybe the move and delete. But this is the thing. And maybe the move and delete, it is, I can do it right now because just the model. But maybe we should do the cache first. So obviously I think that the logic shouldn't be on the dialog class. The logic should be, but the thing is that the easiest way to get to show is, and the problem is that you can't send a signal from the dialog to the presenter to get this stuff because it has to run right away. But you can access the model directly unless I pass as I initialize, which then I would need on the model. Maybe I move this. I think actually I have to move the classes to the file system presenter. It's probably the easiest solution. I just move them to the but then. Because they are there because of the callback functions. Oh, this is another annoying thing that I had to. I'm leaving like this for now. But if I try to put another container here, it doesn't work because it hides the box. I think it's because of the size and like something on the obviously the class I try to use a normal container and then it just shrinks the view. And then split container is the one that makes the tree still show. And it shrinks the thing because I removed the other classes. So the way that they were done before, they were using this split container because they had a functionality there that when you click the icon, it allows you to change the view to show more than one file system. And that was the functionality related to the other thing that I have there, which is the files. So because I removed this, I was thinking about changing, but I'm gonna leave it like this for now, and then maybe in the future I think about some way to, because I'm not pretty sure if it's very good to use the split. But it seems that it's not showing anything, like it's not showing a split there, because it only has one child. But it might be better to think about. I tried the VBox container and the normal container, and they both didn't work. I think this is gonna happen. This is the thing, I don't even have the. This one I think is the one that was crashing before. So I think I deleted the stuff that was making crash, maybe. Or maybe it was the other one. But I'm not really sure which one of these options is gonna trigger the one that I have there. The one that is gonna use the dialog. This one is, I think, is obvious, but so it should be the move. I think the move I don't have anymore though. The option. Or it should be this one, I think, actually. Yeah, so it is this one. The easiest way is just to put on the presenter, and then I just put another function on the view. So I created like a wrapper function on the presenter and just call the function from the view. I think that's the easiest thing to do now, probably. Because then I can send the model instead. So I keep the file this way. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I think that's the easiest thing to do now. So I'm gonna move this stuff to the presenter. And then I'm just gonna create another function. And the problem, yeah. So I can copy the functions there. And just do the same thing. And then instead of setting with the thing, I set with the model from here. Because I think it's probably better to think about this. But this way I think is gonna, like for the remove and the move, the move I'm probably gonna remove the option to remove. Because it doesn't make a lot of sense. It makes, and I can't remember one time that I did, like I don't even think you have the option here. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to move using the GUI. It makes more sense to either drag which they have the functionality there as well, or to move on the command line. So it's probably something that I'm just gonna remove from the options. And the ones that I use the most, I think, is reviewing File Explorer and not even open because it's just double click. But I think these ones is probably nice to have, the cut and copy. I probably copy the open ones and the reviewing File Explorer. Maybe the rename, I think, is also one that I use a lot. So one question would be, should I move everything? Move everything or just the dialogues? That's not matter now. I think this one is for renaming probably. Thinking about whether or not to. Also, this one's for renaming. Whether or not you move all of the dialogues to the presenter and then just create a wrapper function for each one of them. This is just gonna call the view. Or if I should just move the ones that depend on the file system for initialization. I think this one is for moving and then it renames the path. So it just rewrites the path. So which one's for renaming? For rename. So rename's a separate thing here. So I should have on here as well, I think. Yeah, so this doesn't require a dialogue, apparently. I have to run and then see what happens. I don't remember if I tried this. I think I tried before I remove a bunch of stuff, but on the very beginning, before I even like change anything, I think pretty sure that I tried to do everything. The first time that I translated the original classes into the new ones that I'm doing now, I tested the things, but I didn't test after that anymore, I think. So I think I'm just gonna move the ones that require the file system for now. I think after I do everything, so I'm gonna try to finish the optimizations, this kind of stuff. Then I have to. There's two main things that I think that I wanna get done as well fast because I'm not really sure how long it's gonna take and how much I'm gonna have to do. It might be very annoying. So I think the first one is gonna be the terminal that shows up here. I'm gonna try to use the one that they have on Godot already, which is a class that I found there. I'm gonna have to search again for that class, but I know they have like something similar to this that I can copy into another class that I'm doing and then just change so that to make it work for what I'm trying to do, obviously. And this one might be very annoying because I'm gonna have to study the documentation on the operation systems, I think, or like maybe they already have the class, but I'm not the functions on the operation system OS class. But I think, but maybe it's not that hard actually, because they just create a process. Maybe it's not gonna be that hard actually. But that's, I think that the harder than that's gonna be the one that creates the actual files. I think that might be very annoying. So I want to get over with this shoe main classes here first. Then, so get finish the optimizations on this. Then finish the other two classes and maybe then come back to this one. Try to simplify as much as possible. I think I want to get those three done so I can focus on the stuff that I'm actually interested on, which is gonna be the other stuff that I'm gonna do. Actually, I'll copy the signature first. This one also have to change. I think I forgot to change. Set current directory. Yeah, now I'm not really sure if I need this one because it's gonna be. I think on some oh, after I asked questions about the scroll events, ChatGPT, you recommended something along the lines of creating several different signals and then like putting them on the beginning and the middle and the end of the functions on the model to have like a progress of data. So maybe that makes sense, I think. But if it does make sense, I'm gonna think about this later. So for that reason, if I do implement something like that for scroll events, or maybe actually, no, but I think that for uncollapsing is gonna be a separate thing, so it doesn't matter. This one, that this signal gets emitted after the whole thing is complete. I'm probably gonna remove this. I think I should remove, and then I'll think about this later. So remove and then add if necessary. And I think I should remove probably as many things as possible on the model as well. So like remove the other classes as everything, basically. So put the LRU cache and then remove the other class. I think that's what I should do. Well, this was another option you have, but then this one requires you to have the data on a format that's going to be acceptable to a variant, because this uses the variant should translate. So this was the trade-off basically that I did. So one way is to use a struct like the one that I'm using now, and then update on the process, the batches on the process. And the other way is to use a struct that inherits from the object class, then use memnew to initialize on the function that you use to load the data, which is now is load data on the model. And the trade-off is that obviously if you use the object one, use memnew to allocate the memory on the heap, which means it's gonna take. I think I'm not really sure now uh, if it is gonna be faster. I was gonna say that it takes more memory and it's faster, but I'm not 100% sure if it's faster actually. I think this way that I'm doing is faster because you should be faster because you're not allocating each time you create a new directory. You pass a new directory, I think. You're just using this stack. But now I'm not really sure. Because usually what happens is the more memory you use, the faster it is. I think obviously it's not going to be always, I think, the case. But now I'm not really I don't know for sure if using memory is going to be, it would be faster. I think the advantages of memnew is probably is lower. There's lower option, but then it's better to, because the downside of this is that you have to do this check here on the process of this class each time, because you're running the other one from the other thread, so you can shut down the process. So this is one of the disadvantages, and the other disadvantage is that you lose information that you're sending. So like if I was building with memnew, I could have the whole tree state, which is what they were doing there on the root node, and I just send the root node. Maybe that way is better, not really sure. But the problem with that, I think that one you would still need to traverse the whole thing. But maybe you could like send the nodes, each node. It would be basically the same thing. Like I would send each node. I think it would be like easier. It would be it goes into the function that I talked about here in the beginning. Like here it feels kind of more fragile because I need to make sure the order in which I'm adding the nodes is correct to make sure that they are placed on the correct place. Because if I put a file that was supposed to be on a subfolder before I put the folder, then it's gonna be the file is gonna be directly put on the root, which is not the correct place. So I need to make sure that I put the subfolder first. And if I had the whole thing, then I could traverse up the tree, I think, to check. But I think it would probably be, yeah, it would be very similar, I think. But this one, it seems to me that it's probably the best option if you can get away with it, because then you don't need to use memnew every time that you create a new thing, which I think it just intuitively, like, it kind of makes more sense that if you don't have to allocate memory in the heap, it's probably going to be faster, I think. But I might still have to do it depends on the way that the cache is going to work. So I'm not 100% sure about this. And maybe but if I do, I think that maybe I could do something different on the cache. So this might be an I think I said just a fast view. And then I'm gonna create another function here. I'm just gonna copy the functions they have. I didn't need to copy, just make a void function. Alright, that should be public, I think. No, I'm thinking about maybe I don't need this. I'm gonna try to compile like this because maybe accessing the view here it works. No, I'm not really sure. How does this work? Hmm. I didn't think about this before. Because if it's accessing the function here like this, how does it know? Is it gonna call for all the views? It doesn't make sense. I'm gonna try to compile like this first to see what happens. So I'm just gonna change the model. I don't understand like oh I think that yeah the problem is that it's passing this here. So it's not gonna work, yeah. I have to change. Yeah, so I need to create a function. 'Cause it's able to figure out where the function is from, but from the instance of the class. Yeah. I put there. I put here. Actually, I'm not really sure how this works. Maybe I got the wrong function. Hmm. I don't understand how this works. I think it's just gonna figure out based on the type, maybe. It's passing two arguments there. It should be the same, I think. Yeah, I think it should be the same. Yeah, but this is the problem. Like, how am I gonna call this? You just call the function and pass the arguments and it's whatever. I'm basically just wrapping the function here so I can call it. I'm gonna do the same on file remove. I'll be right back. Yeah, remove the. Hmm. This might be a problem because of circular dependency. I was like, I should test first, but it is kind of annoying. Maybe I'll change this later anyway. I think I have to remove the queue. Uh, I think like it complains when you try to access something from the class without having the whole thing. So when you forward declare, the compiler understands and it resolves when is I think when it creates the object file. Yeah, so when it creates the object file, it's gonna look for the include dependencies on the C++ file, and then it's gonna like link the declaration here with the actual functionality. And then like doing this stops the warnings. If you need the type to on the declaration, it still works even though you don't have the type. You just have like this thing here. It updates the type once you compile the C++ file. But I think if you try to access anything from it, you're not gonna because you don't have the class yet. You just have the type. Like this is essentially I think an empty type, like just a placeholder. So the problem with like putting the include file here is that there's like something I don't remember the specifics very well, but it's based on translation units on C++. So the way that it works is that each C++ file is going to be a translation unit. The C++ file has the header dependencies that is connected to it. And based on the way the compilation process works, it's going to first create the object files from the C++ files, and that each C++ file is going to be a translation unit. And then when it links, it's going to link the files later. So when it tries to link, it's going to see that you have different headers on different, you have the same header on the different C++ files. So if that's the case, then it's going to complain. But I think that's, and if you like, the more you do for declare, the least likely it becomes to have these problems with the conflicts. I think. Yeah, so like when you put the include on the header, then it becomes more likely that two C++ files are going to have the same header because you use headers on more places. So increase the chances that you're going to have this kind of an issue with a conflict on the translation units, which I think is a problem with the way the C++ works. I think they could be simplified. I don't see the point of having I don't like the idea of having the header files. I think I prefer without the headers, which is something good about Python and JavaScript, I think. I'm not sure if Rust has header, like something. I think Rust probably doesn't have headers. That's probably better than C++. It just adds a bunch of unnecessary stuff, I think. But it is what it is. So the concern that I have with putting the stuff there is that later I'm gonna have a problem. So obviously it would be better if I could avoid. But if I pass the information here, then I can't use there, I think. Like this whole thing is kind of... I think that based on the way that this was done, I think it might be... And maybe this is the only way to do it. But it seems that like it could be improved. Because I think that's like... Initially it was working in a different way. It was with hard-coded paths. So I think it might make sense on that case. But because I'm changing the stuff, it might not make like... Stops making sense to do stuff this way. Because it feels kind of a mix. Like the purpose of the dialogue shouldn't have anything to do with the other classes. Should be decoupled, I think. I think it's probably I'm probably gonna delete this stuff later. Actually, to be honest, I'm gonna try to keep with the functionality, whatever functionality I put here, coupled on the view, and not rely on any dialogue. I think that's probably a lot better. The thing is that for the overrides, for moves and overrides, it might be necessary, I think, because then you have to check to see if there is already a file with that name on the folder, and then if there is, you have to show the dialog. So I think that for that situation makes sense. And maybe for the remove, it makes sense as well. I'm gonna open I'm gonna see what VS Code does when I delete the folder. I think it doesn't show anything. But I think it probably makes sense to show something, like to show a confirmation message or something like that. So you don't delete something by accident. Yeah, it does show. Hmm. It does make sense. But I think I should probably, yeah, I should probably try to change this later to like remove the functionality. And that's the thing. I think that the reason why they need the model is because they're showing the tree on the dialogue. I think that's the part that doesn't make sense. Like if you're gonna do an event, like you should only show a message that asks for confirmation or something. You shouldn't need to get the tree state, I think, on the dialogue. And then from the dialogue, after the confirmation, you just maybe the only cases where it makes sense is just when you have to select. So I think for the move option there doesn't make sense to have on the thing. So I'm probably gonna remove that one, but keep the other ones, and then just change the dialogue probably. And I wonder if this is because of the circular dependency. Because now it should have the view. Mm. But this is the issue. Like I do think that's gonna be circular dependency because this one uses the model. So maybe just create another enum on the process presenter and have them both classes. I think that's probably better. That's the easiest solution. So just copy the enums that the functions are using. 'Cause essentially, they're gonna be the same thing. Not sure if it's gonna be a problem, but I'm gonna change anyway. I think the classes. Oh, this is another thing. Hmm. So obviously, the easiest solution is just to send an event, send a signal, but that's kind of bad, I think. Huh. Do a few results now or there. Yeah, I think I'm gonna change the. So I'm gonna go back and put this on here. I'm gonna try to change the dialogue so that they don't rely on the thing. So I'm gonna go back. I think once I remove the file system, I can remove the, can stop including the model as well on the view. Yeah, but the model I'm still using as a to access the namespace, access the struct. I can move the struct outside, but not sure if that's. I'm not sure if it matters that much. Like move this outside, so I don't have to include the model. I'm gonna go over the debugger, try to find or try to trigger the call, this function call here. Just see what happens when it shows the dialog. It's on the file remove. Yeah, so I'm gonna go over. Whatever. So I don't have the remove here anymore. I'm just gonna comment this out. Don't remember when I removed the option. Might be because of the icon. I do remember that I had this on before, so maybe it was when I was deleting stuff. But I think it wasn't. I think I deleted this before. I deleted all this stuff yesterday. It doesn't make sense. Like I think this should be changed here. It doesn't make sense to show this. That's the part that I think I'm gonna have to change. Because like it doesn't make sense to show in the dialogue. So if I remove from so let me. So I think this show functions. It doesn't make sense to do this here. Like if I show a dialogue, it should show the dialogue without showing the tree and separate the logic. Like this should be a signal that is sent to the presenter that calls a function on the model. The logic shouldn't be on this class. I think. So I'm just gonna comment this out. I think it's this one. Then I'm gonna comments here. Maybe this is the easiest way is to comment everything out first. Then I go over with the debugger again. I trigger the actions. And then I see what happens. Then later I'll think about how to change this. But I'm thinking probably I have to change the dialogue functionality and then send signals and do everything on the presenter and the model. I was trying to read this for now to understand how it works more because I didn't spend too much time reading this. I think this might be the problem is that. Yeah, I think this is the issue here. With this one, I think it's more obvious what should be changed, but the other one might be harder. But I think that the issue is that they are putting the logic of like selecting what's removed on here instead of doing based on the path. So I think it makes a lot more sense to just like send the path to the signal and then show the dialogue and keep track of the path. Then on the OK pass, you just pass the path. Then from the presenter receives the path, calls a function on the model that has a path. Then the model is the thing that's Yeah, it's gonna have to be both on the model and on the view. So I think that the presenter calls a function on the view and on the model. So the list from the view first, then the model, and then there needs to be, yeah. So the list from the view first, then calls a function on the model. The model updates and calls a signal. Yeah, but not sure. Because if you're removing, you don't need to add stuff, obviously. So maybe we don't need the signal. But I think in some situations, then have a function from the model. From the model, you send a signal, and then have another function on the presenter that updates the view again. But I do think in some situations I'm gonna need to do what they were probably doing before, which is just call update tree. But instead of reconstructing the whole state, I have to figure out how to change, which is basically gonna be algorithms to traverse the tree and like change specific parts of the tree. So instead of doing the whole thing. Hmm. So I assume that this function is the one that's going to delete the file. Yeah, so I think this one is kind of obvious what I have to do. Just transfer this functionality later to the model. The question is, should I do this later or should I do it now? I think I should do it later because I need to implement the cache first. Makes more sense to implement the cache and the events. Then I'll come back to this. Yeah. So I think probably what I'm gonna have to do is on the view, on the functions that are set as a callback from these ones, I have to create another function. Then I just wrap the original function with the new function that I create. And then on the new function, I send a signal. I'm gonna have to put the callback function on the view because I think it makes more sense to put the dialogues on the view. Because then I don't get into the issue of the includes there. I think probably it's better. It might make more sense to put the stuff on the presenter, but I think it doesn't matter that much, I think. It's just easier to put on the view, so that's probably what I'm gonna do. Create new function of the view, wrap the old ones for the same events, and then just emit a signal. Then connect the presenter to the signal from the view. Oh, there's another part that I didn't see before. I should have changed this thing. Yeah, the problem is that I'm not really sure why they are doing this thing. Because it seems that again they are creating they are creating the view. They're creating the tree on the dialogue again, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I think. So there's probably something fundamentally wrong. I know what I can do is just I can look into I can open the project and then move the file on the original one, and then I see for one's purpose it is. So I'm gonna comment everything else, and then I'm gonna open the editor, and maybe I can open, so I can open outside, and then just see the message first. So I think it's gonna be on the move option. So I'm gonna do it on the original file system, just see. Yeah, but I have to open, I have to go with the debugger, I think. Oh, yeah, I was gonna see like what shows on the dialogue. Like what kind of dialogue it shows. I think it's this option here. So they recreate the tree because you can select and then you move there. To be honest, it's pretty useless to me. Like the problem with this is that like on very large directories it would, but I guess it's the same pattern, so just load in a different place. Maybe it's not that, but I don't see myself using this, I think. Maybe it is useful. I think that's probably the main purpose of doing this reload here. Because it's just used for the copy and for the move. The copy, I think it makes more sense to like there must be a way to get the whatever is on the Control C, which I think that's how they do it here. So like if you put copy or if you put paste, if you put copy, I think it's gonna put this on the Control C cache on the operating system, and then next time you can use paste, and then you can just there's probably an API that allows you to get the thing, so do it directly. Don't think you. Yeah, but the exception would be if there's already a file, so that's the problem. This is mainly the one that is used for the move and duplicate option. I'm just gonna comment everything else, and I'm going to remove. I'm gonna comment everything that uses the file system here, then comments out the function there, and then just At this one, I'm probably gonna delete actually, to be honest. I'm gonna remove this class. Because I don't think it's very useful. I think I'm gonna have to, the only question on whether or not to delete now is if I'm gonna be, if it is gonna be useful to trying to figure out the other functionality. Because I do wanna implement the copy, I think. So like copy and paste, but it should be different, I think. So I want to see what they do, what VS Code does when I copy on the task folder. I should test with this like some that has the same name. Also, don't like I never actually the copy paste I think is useful. I think I do use sometimes. Yeah, so they just do it, and then let's see if there's yeah. So if there's the same name, they have some functionality to yeah, the copy, and then there's probably gonna be a counter for the next one. Yeah. So I think that I do think that this is much better. So probably I think the way that it's gonna go is that you just have a signal. I have the option which is gonna be inside of the file option function. Then the file option function checks to see based on the path that it receives. If it is a copy, it just changes the state of the class to keep track of that. And then if it is a paste, you just send a signal with the directory that was pasted and the new thing to put there. Then on the presenter receives the signal, it calls the model function. Then on the model, you check to see if there's already a file with the name. And then if there is, you just create a new name with a counter. So it adds a value at the end. So probably gonna delete this dear dialog class. I'm gonna comment everything for now, and then I'll think about substring. Whether or not should delete this, because it might be useful to implement the other stuff, the other approach. So I think everything, and the remove dialog I think is gonna be easier to change as well. Just set the signal, but it's better to do the cache first. I think on the remove dialog I have to do a completely, I just have to do another message. So here everything is commented on. So you know. I think I'm just gonna show a message on the remove dialog, the same way that they do there on VS Code, and then I just keep the move to trash function. Actually, I think it's probably better to emit signal instead, and then just deal with the logic on the either on the presenter or the model, but probably the model, because the model is the class that is obviously gonna hold the state. So I think that it makes more sense to move to trash call on the model instead. So I'm gonna remove the other stuff related to file system now. Just gonna remove. And so from the remove, I can just change the what it shows there on the dialog. And then they already have this thing here. So all I have to do is just send an extra, or just connect to the signal in the presenter. Then from the presenter, I call a function from the model, and then I update the model. I think here as well, I have to traverse the hash. Or I get the, and this should be easy to do. So I get the path. I get the 3 item from the hash. And then I delete. The thing is, I'm not really sure. Like, but I'm gonna look into this later. Hmm. So I think that they are doing this here to move entire directory. So they get all the items on the directory. So again, I think that this one is probably better to emit a signal. But the problem with this signal is that they use on the other one, so let's just see on the rest of the function. This is gonna be annoying. Because I think that for this one is gonna go into the update thing. Like I have to send a signal instead of doing all this thing, all this stuff here. I have to send a signal, then update the states on the model, then sends the state back to the view, and then update the tree on the view on another function. I think that's what I should do. So it's renaming the old one with the new one. So obviously all that I need is the old path and the new path. So I think what I have to do is just create another signal, then just pass the old path and new path after this call, this function here. Then on the presenter, connect a signal, put a callback function, call the model, pass this logic here to a function on the model, update the model state, and then send a signal to the, or either return as an argument to the on the function so that the presenter has the new state. I think for the model, I would have to get all the files and folders on the directory. Yeah, so like this is like relocating a node on the tree. A node and the children on the tree. So the question is whether or not it makes more sense to like change the tree on the view first. So change the tree on the view and then you send a signal after to the model to update the cache. I have to create a function on the model that. So I think that the problem with this is that I have to think about the cache first. I have to finish the cache and the events because then I'm gonna have a better idea of like how it's gonna work with the whole system, and then like how this is going to affect that. So I'm not really sure if it's worth it to just comment everything out here or just comment this part. Like it was commented out before. I think I'm just gonna like leave it like this for now. Then I fix the other stuff and then I come back to this. I should probably write. Like because I know that this is gonna be used many times, I'm thinking about whether or not it makes sense to create another function and then just do breadth first search on that function. And then but the problem is the signals. So I think that for the load data I probably need to keep it like that because of the signals. So but I should probably create another one just to I'm gonna move this to there and then I'm gonna comment out and remove from here. So I think later I'm going to change the function. Let's put model. I'm probably just gonna do a breadth first search. I'm probably gonna change the way that it is as well. Or maybe there's a better way because essentially the same thing. Like you're creating trees, you're creating subtrees and then you're removing the original tree based on the subtrees. So I know for sure that there are algorithms for that. So you should probably look online for this first. What is the optimal way to, because maybe it's not necessary, but I think like we're gonna have to change the cache as well anyway, so but it's probably gonna be the same algorithm. But maybe I can use the like Godot's system to do this. Maybe I should probably study the relation between the tree item, the relation between the tree class and the main scene tree system. Because if I can use find child to find by name, I can get the name of the nodes based. Yeah, but I can get the name of the node based on the tree item. Actually, I can do it. I don't need to look for because I know I should do it. So like you get the tree item pointer, then you get the name of that node, and then you use find child from the root, which is the tree. Then once you have the two nodes, you just delete the pointers. That's probably a lot better. Like you just call add child from the original one, and just after that you delete the first one. Maybe I should probably, yeah, create a new copy instead. So like you create a new one based on the old one on the new place, and then you delete the other one. So actually, now that I think about it, probably we can find a better, like an easier way to do it. But I still think that you should call function of the model as well to update the cache. But it's probably better to implement the cache first. Yeah, because that way, I think that this is the difference. Like the way that they were doing before, they were re-updating the tree every time. So because I only created the tree once, I still have the pointers, so I can just change the place of the nodes. I think the reason why they were doing like that is because you can't guarantee that you're gonna have the tree in the way that it was before. So they were getting they were getting the whole state based on the model. 'Cause the model had the tree states with the pointers. I think that's the difference. Now everything is deleted. So file system. I think I'm gonna stop here. So I'll do some of this stuff off string. So I'm just gonna spend some time thinking about it. What are the best ways to do this? I still have to do these two things here. But I'm kind of already tired already. I spent too much time on this. So I'm gonna stop streaming now. And I'm going to probably think about... I think I'm gonna implement this stuff here. So probably next time that I stream, if I implement this off stream, I'm going to explain what I did. And if I don't, then next time that I stream, I'm just gonna implement this. So I'm probably just gonna spend some time studying the signals on the tree to see, or going over with the debugger to see what happens after when you collapse and uncollapse, which I kind of already did, but I just want to refresh my memory. And I think for the scroll, I'm not gonna do anything. If I do something for the scroll, it should be later. I think for the main thing about the collapse and uncollapse is the loader, the loading spinner. I want to focus on that, but I need to create the cache first. For the cache, I'm just gonna copy from the repository that I found from this guy here. She has a YouTube channel, and I think he referenced this on one of the videos just based on LRU cache, and this is the name of the guy. So I'm just gonna copy this code, and I'm gonna put it on the model, and then I'm just gonna change whatever I need to change to make it work with Godot, which I think shouldn't be that hard. Then I'm gonna change the other functions just to put this stuff on the... I think I'm gonna keep the hash with the information from the node metadata. And I'm not going to... This is the part that I was thinking about that I said that I might have to use memnew on the, so if I do have to use memnew, I might change the other one as well. Because if I'm forced to use memnew with array, then it's probably better to change the function on the file system presenter so that I don't have to run the process each time. Like, it would be better if I could use this call deferred here and then just pass the batch. And I might have to use this in order to keep track of the nodes. Because the problem is in this situation there, where... But I guess it's just an extra step. Like, you put instead of putting the stuff on the data structure, you just put the stuff on the algorithm. So, like on the updates there that I was thinking about, on the granular updates, all I have to do is just get the path, and then from the path you just check the values on the cache that have the path as a child. And basically you put the logic on the algorithm to update each thing on the cache. So the trade-off is going to be either you do stuff on the algorithm or you hold the data on the data structure, and then you just use a cache that keeps track of the... But I think it's probably better to use LRU cache, because I'm thinking that probably in the future, like, I'm going to use a heuristic or something to not load everything on the cache and just load a range outside of what the tree already has. Because the tree already works kind of like a cache, because I already have the states on the FS view on the tree and tree item class. And the only thing the model matters is just like for synchronizing the data. So like the FS view is kind of like already a cache, but obviously for the parts that... The nice thing about having the LRU cache would be for situations where I have a large directory, so it don't load everything on the view. It just loads, like, let's say 2 levels deep from what is seen on the current state. Then depending on how the user interacts, you get from the cache. I think that's the main reason. So I think I'm probably gonna try to implement, if I have to, the logic on the algorithms instead of the data structure to update the LRU cache. So I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna see if I can implement these 2 things here. Next time I'm probably gonna continue to implement this. So if I finish this, then I'm probably gonna explain some of the stuff that I did. I might work on the spinner next time, I think. I wanna get rid of this as well. So like, because this is something that might be hard, and I'm gonna reuse on other parts. So I wanna get over this as well. I think I might focus on this one on next time, and then do this other stuff off stream. So see you next time.